Welcome back. This is Tim Harris. We have another fantastic interview for you as part of our World's Greatest Agent Interview series. And again, a twist. Today, we're interviewing the CEO of SunWest Mortgage and the founder of angelai.com. So his name is also one of my neighbors and friends. Is Pavan Agarwal. So welcome to our interview series. I certainly appreciate you carving out the time to meet with me.
Hey, great to be here, Tim. I'm so excited. We've been friends for so long, and it literally took this long to convince you to get me on your podcast. So,
Well, okay, I want to talk about that because it's actually funny. It wasn't until relatively recently that I learned about I knew you were in the real estate business. I didn't realize you owned a mortgage company. So it was my fault for not ever asking enough questions. Had I known, I would have had you on.
yeah, I'm just busting your chops. I actually don't talk business in the neighborhood.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's your own fault. So don't
yeah,
blame me.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm busting your chops.
I know, I know.
I think the neighborhood should be kept as a safe zone for our kids and our families, and business has its place, and where you live has its place.
I agree completely. And that's how Julie, that was our philosophy too when we sold real estate. So this is the timing of this actually works out perfectly because there's so many changes that are happening with regards to the buyer agent commission sharing lawsuits. You and I were just talking about that before I hit record. And we were talking specifically about seller concessions, and I said something wrong and you immediately corrected me. And I know that's something that all the agents listening are going to be really concerned about because, as this rolls out, after August 17th into the new year, there's going to be various hypothetically different, different systems to have the buyer pay the buyer's agent's commissions. I still think 90% of the time the seller is still going to be paying it as far as seller's concessions, but this is how it's all going to work out. But what I'm not an expert at is how it works out on the mortgage side. So can you walk me through how the concessions work on FHA, how they work on VA, all the rest of that?
Okay, so we were talking about the impact of the recent rules changes by Freddie, Fannie, VA on this buyer's commission issue. Because obviously, if the agencies, well, almost every piece of real estate transaction that ever happens is financed by one of the major agencies, if they don't allow the seller to pay the buyer's commission, then the buyer's agent commission, then you can't get paid your commission. So here's what's happened. It's all happened like around the March, April timeframe, and then a flurry of rules came out. And the good news is that you can get paid on all of these FHA, VA, USDA, Freddie, Fannie transactions, right? And you won't be capped. So before this, I'm going to do a little before and after. So before the rules came out, there was something called interested party compensation or interested party contribution. Okay, so that was capped, like say for Freddie Fannie loans, is capped at 3%, up to 90% LTV, and it was 6% up to 75, and then went to 9%, things like that. And FHA is at 6%. So the challenge would have been like, if you were at 3% cap and your commission is 3%, then you would have eaten up all of your interested party contribution, and you'd have no money left over to pay closing costs. Okay, so Freddie, Fannie, and VA is in the process of making some new rules. They came out with the rule that said that if the seller pays the buyer's agent's commission, that it will not be counted towards interested party contribution. So it's outside of the 3%.
Wow.
Right. And Freddie came out with the first, and then Fannie came out with it. So there was a time period where only Freddie allowed it, then now Freddie and Fannie both allow it. Okay. So that basically means for you as a real estate agent, and in general, I think if you take away any one thing from here, the problem is basically solved from a lending perspective, because all the major agencies have adjusted the rules, have adjusted the policies, so that buyer's agents can get paid from the seller and it won't affect the loan transaction. And that's the most important thing. So if you take away something, you take away that one thing, that the loan transaction will not get hurt because of the seller paying the buyer's agent commission. Okay, so what you have to do as a buyer's agent is you have to make sure that all the right disclosures and the right contracts are signed, I'm not an expert of that. Tim, you know more about it than I do. What a buyer's agent has to do with his buyer to make sure that he can legally get paid. But on the lending side, the agencies have stepped up. We love our realtors, and the agencies that demonstrate that love, they've stepped up and they've changed the rules so that nothing is really affected. There is one rule that's pending that VA made the announcement for, and it's supposed to come out any day now. Let me look at my notes. I think it's going to come out. Shoot, give me a second. It's going to come out on June 12th, so next week. Okay, so there's one little caveat on VA loans, is that if the seller is not paying the buyer's agent commission and the buyer wants to pay it directly, VA would not allow that.
Hmm.
Okay,
Interesting.
but that never happens. That's the VA borrower writing a check himself to the buyer's agent for his commission. I mean, when does that ever really happen? So but in any case, if it does happen, if there's a need for it, it's the VA is expected to issue a rule on the 12th saying that they will permit that. So that's an edge case that never happens anyways, but now that's going to be covered as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure. And it isn't, I cannot imagine a scenario where a vast majority of buyer agents' commissions won't continually, it won't continue to be paid by the seller. Call it a concession if you'd like. It's no longer a commission. It's no longer a co-op. It's going to be, concession, but it's all going to wash out because it's become so, I don't know if you want to use the term, but institutionalized in the United States to use a buyer's agent, that people have just become to expect it. Unless you're a seasoned, real estate buyer or seller like you are, you're always going to want to use a buyer's agent if you're not familiar with the market. I'm maybe not you. I'm guessing from your smart.
Well, no, I mean, I recently bought some real estate right here in San Juan, and I used a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't have to, but I used it simply because it saved me so much headache. It's this time, right? Time is the most precious commodity, and I happily paid the 3% because he did all save me so much time. And I told him what I wanted, what kind of investments I'm looking for, and he did all the legwork and got it from me. So I think, it's not unreasonable. I think more experienced people are, and more sophisticated people are, they don't mind paying the brokerage fees and the commissions because they understand, like, either I pay him 3% or I'm going to lose more money than that in lost opportunity because I won't be able to work on my business.
I 100% agree. And then of course that makes sense. And it was Warren Buffett actually that said, that he's never asked for a reduction in commissions on all of his real estate deals he's done. I don't know if you knew this, but Charlie Munger was actually a pretty big real estate investor. He owned like a whole bunch of multifamilies. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I learned something.
Yeah. I mean, considering how much those guys talk about, stocks and whatnot, Charlie was big into rentals. In any event, so Warren said that he's never asked for commissions to be reduced. And he basically, remembering, keep in mind that he owns, Berkshire Hathaway, the real estate company too. He said, the systems works, the system's been in place for a long period of time because people like it and it seems to work. So, we'll see where it all goes. We can speculate till the cows come home. So you told me something interesting about, this was on our phone call we had a couple of weeks ago. You were talking to me about another thing that's going to most likely hit the mortgage industry, the small and medium-sized mortgage brokers, that no one seems to be talking about, with regards to the fact that a lot of them are operating essentially in the ether with regards to their reserves. If I'm not getting some of that right, please correct me.
Yes. So we're talking about small and mid-sized independent mortgage bankers, not brokers.
Okay.
Okay, so independent mortgage bankers who have their Freddie Fannie and Jenny approval. So there are rules out there about how much cash reserves you got to have, and how much net worth you have to have. And there's also profitability covenants that are issued by Freddie and Fannie and Jenny, but more importantly and more immediate is their warehouse lenders. And this is, as everyone's experienced, a pretty rough 2 years. And so my head of treasury, who runs my treasury, was the head of treasury for a big big national bank as well, and I recruited him over. He used to cover me when he was at that bank, and so I recruited him to my team, and so he participates on a regular basis on these national conferences about warehouse lenders and banking in general and so forth. So the last conference he went to, this was like in February, and every major warehouse lender was there, and they basically told him, and the talk of the conference was, hey, almost every one of our independent mortgage bankers have breached their covenants and have been negative, right, for like 6-7 quarters in a row. Right. So in other words, that's 6 quarters is a year and a half, 8 quarters is 2 years. And Freddie, Fannie, and Jenny have a rule that if you're negative 8 quarters in a row, if 8 quarters in a row you don't make money, they will pull your approval. Okay, so right now warehouse lenders are very nervous between the fact that their customers have all-time low production, they've breached their covenants, they don't know, they're playing game of chicken, they don't know whether they should pull first or wait for Freddie and Fannie to pull first. Who's going to pull the trigger first, right? Okay, and so that's, I think we're in a really tough time right now where it's kind of like 2008 where all the mortgage bankers collapsed all at once. Right now we're seeing them sort of seeing this train wreck in slow motion, and it's happening. But the good news is that, hey, jobs are good news for the mortgage industry, bad news for the rest of America is we're seeing a weakening job reports, and we're seeing the rally in the 10-year treasury the last 2 days. Right.
Which means interest rates are predicted to fall. And so really that's the only thing that's going to keep all these guys afloat is when mortgage rates fall and they can have the greatest refinance boom on planet Earth.
You would think so, but memories are so short. Like 3 days ago, interest rates were, 10-year treasury was climbing steadily to 5%. Now it suddenly fell with the low jobs numbers, right? So, I'm seeing the 10-year treasury basically still being range bound between, call it 4.25% and 5%. There'd have to be a complete disaster someplace for it to fall back below 4%, and that means interest rates in the 5 handle, and that would really save the mortgage bankers. But if I have to choose between the lives of mortgage bankers and lives of the average American, I would choose the life of the average American. So I'm rooting for a good jobs report. I'm rooting for things for Americans to continue, even though, and the reality is with 3-4% inflation, and last 2 years it hit it almost 10% at one time, and incomes haven't increased, right? Housing affordability hasn't. Housing prices have gone through the roof. Right. So the reality is that Americans are making a lot less money today than they were 2 or 3 years ago. And they're being squeezed really hard. And those are my customers, and those are the ones that I'm really rooting for. And I want to see this inflation cycle end. That's the priority. I think that should be all of our priorities, and not just saying, hey, let's have a bad jobs report so we get interest rates down and sell more real estate. I think that's a bad way to look at it.
Well, lowering rates will actually cause more inflation, don't you think? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck in the spiral for some time to come. So remembering we're talking to real estate people here, not mortgage people, I'm going to ask you some questions to define this, because I'm sure you said 3 or 4 different terms, and you can just give us a textbook definition of what these mean. All right, so you said mortgage broker, you said mortgage banker, and then you said wholesale lender. So can you explain to the listeners, like, how does that all work? If you go and talk to Bob, your lender, he is probably, go ahead.
Okay, so mortgage broker, which I think they have 30% of the market today, which is independent mortgage brokers, and they are set up with any number of lenders. So they work with you, they build the relationships, they take the loan applications and submit it to a lender who underwrites and closes and funds the deal. Okay. And so that's the difference between a broker and a lender. And the advantage to you using a broker is that when you use a broker, the broker can shop a deal with many different lenders. Okay. The disadvantage using a broker is that, to some would argue, and I have to be careful, like I don't want to irritate brokers out there, because they're my customers also, right? and so our lenders are my customer as well. So, some would argue that brokers don't have as much control of the process as a lender does, and may not be able to get, especially a more complicated deal done. Okay, and there are solutions to that. There's counter arguments to that as well. And then you have mortgage bankers or lenders. Okay, and lenders have the approval to sell loans directly to the agency. So they have a higher net worth. They have a lot of skin in the game. Okay, so the big advantage of you as a realtor working with a lender is that because they have so much skin in the game, they have a lot of money tied up, you can pretty much be sure that they're going to always step up and make things right. Okay, if something goes wrong, they have to protect their brand and the net worth. They will write the check or approve whatever, do what needs to be done to make your customer do the right thing by the customer. And also mortgage lenders are more heavily regulated than mortgage brokers. Okay, so that means you'll get a little bit more, potentially a little bit more protection. Okay, so those are the two terms. What's the third term you asked?
Wholesaler, wholesale lender.
A wholesale lender, right? So the wholesale lender is a lender that works with a mortgage broker. Okay, so if I'm a lender and I have my Freddie, Fannie, and FHA approvals, I can work through a mortgage broker. So the mortgage broker works with you, and then sends me the application for underwriting closing, or I can hire loan officers myself and work directly with you. So there's two possibilities, right? So a wholesale lender is a lender that works with mortgage brokers, and then the mortgage broker works with you.
So a wholesale lender would represent multiple different sources of loans, or they just represent theirs? How does that work?
A wholesale lender only they represent their loans.
Okay, so a mortgage broker would work with a whole bunch of different wholesalers then, basically.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
And
a mortgage lender, the way that I know it's still called sometimes like a portfolio lender. They're loaning their own money and they're servicing their own money, basically.
Yes, but technically a portfolio lender is a different animal. So a portfolio lender would be more like a Bank of America or a Wells Fargo, for example, because they have depositors' money and they literally take the loan and put it in their portfolio.
Okay, so how does Fannie Freddie work into all of this? Because this ultimately, a lot of these loans get sold to or securitized, insured by Fannie Freddie. Can you describe that? Because so far you're doing good. And then we'll talk about the fun stuff.
Yeah. I don't want to geek out on mortgage stuff and bore your audience, but these are really great questions.
Well, they got to know, because right now in this day and age, when buyers agents are going to have to start proving their value to the buyers, because the buyers have to sign exclusive contracts with the buyers agents, the buyers agents aren't going to just be able to take a passive path and to understanding how to explain loan products. They're going to have to be able to articulate it, so then that buyer is going to see the value that they're offering, and thus they'll be willing to commit to them as an exclusive representative. That's the reason I'm asking for all this drill down.
Yes, correct. And then also, if buyer's agent ever want to get in the loan business, this is a great education 101. These are all of these questions come in the mortgage test to get your license. So, so the question, repeat the question again. I got lost.
Well, no problem. So and I got lost too there. So we're talking about wholesale lenders. We're talking about how does Fannie Freddie enter into all this.
Yeah. Okay. So what is Fannie Freddie? Actually, there's three terms you would hear often. Actually, four terms. You hear Fannie, Freddie, Jenny, and FHFA. Okay. So FHFA is not somebody any of us will ever deal with. They're the regulator. They're the government department that regulates Fannie and Freddie, and they set the rules. So Fannie and Freddie wants to make the policy change to say, hey, some of that 3% sales commission or lender credit, seller credit can be used for real estate agent, buyer's agent commission. The FHFA has to approve it. Okay, so I believe that specific guideline, I think it started from the FHFA down, and they told Fannie and Freddie to make that change. Okay, so that's the FHFA. So that's like way up here, they're at the top of the hill. Then the next layer is Jenny, Freddie, and Fannie. So most lenders, unless you're a bank, unless you're Bank of America or something like that, most lenders don't have their own money, technically their own money to lend. They borrow the money from a warehouse lender. We go to a Wells Fargo, borrow the money, and then we lend it out to Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Main Street to buy that house. And then we take that loan and we sell it to Fannie and Freddie, okay, or we securitize it into a mortgage-backed security that is guaranteed by Fannie, Freddie, or Ginnie. Okay, the difference between Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie is that Ginnie only works on the government-insured loans, which is FHA, VA, and USDA. Okay, so all of those three loan products go into a Ginnie security. And if you ever go into Bloomberg and you look at the trading screen, there's a different screen for Ginnies, and there's a different screen for Fannies. Okay, so it's Fannie MBS and Ginnie MBS are trading differently, and you can look at where they're trading to understand where the pricing is. Okay, so with Fannie and Freddie, you have two options. You could either sell them the whole loan, okay, and they'll buy it as soon as we as a lender fund it. We deliver the note, the note that the borrower signs, the promissory note. We deliver it to Fannie and Freddie, which is also, that note is also called collateral. So we deliver the collateral to them, and they then purchase that loan and pay off our warehouse line. And that's how the money circulates. So we give the money, you sign the note, we take the note, and we sell it to Fannie and Freddie, and Fannie and Freddie then gives us the money back. And
And, and sometimes the lender will continue to service it, basically. So if you do your loan through ABC Bank and the ABC Bank's the one invoicing you every month, they're getting paid a fee to basically service the loan on behalf of Fannie and Freddie. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that's like, for example, my mortgage company, that's what we do. And that's what we do at Angel AI. So when you originate a loan, okay, with us or with most IMBs, and we sell the loan to Fannie and Freddie, right? We have the option at that point to service the loan. That means collect the payments from the mortgager and do all the customer service that's required. And if the mortgager is unable to make the payments because he lost his job or whatever, we do the workout, the loss mitigation, and sometimes, unfortunately, we also have to foreclose. So we do all of those services, and we remit the money to Fannie, Freddie, or the Ginnie Mae bondholders.
Got it. You mentioned foreclosure. I'm not going to talk about distressed real estate. I know that you had to work through all that back in the day too. But just out of curiosity, have you seen any reason in any of the markets that you focus on geographically? I know you guys are 50 state licensed with your mortgage bank. Have you seen any meaningful upticks in distressed real estate that would be worrisome?
Nothing worrisome. There has been an uptick in delinquencies in the last 12 months. Not a major uptick. And right now, I shouldn't be saying it this way. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. But it's almost like foreclosures are a profit center because home values have gone up so much that when we foreclose, there's always money left over, even on a government loan.
Agents don't understand that. So breaking it down, if it's a $500,000 house and it goes into foreclosure and the unpaid mortgage balance is 250, and let's say the foreclosure process ends up costing, I'll just pick up a number, 250 grand. Technically, the rest of the money flows back to the foreclosed upon owner. A lot of owners don't understand that. They didn't understand that back in the housing boom. They don't understand that now.
Yeah.
But obviously you want to avoid that and do a short sale or something like that, which, is far easier to have happen and far less detrimental. And I will say this, and then we're going to pivot and talk about Angel AI. If you have a borrower that for some reason is in distress and they're saying that they cannot make the payment for whatever reason, their tides have turned, tell them not to miss a payment, because the first missed payment is the nuclear bomb to their credit. So call the lender right away and get the lender to give them a forbearance. And I don't know, I guess, I don't know how long forbearances are for, but people can get months long forbearances now, to get the facts together. Yeah.
Yes.
But
I mean,
yeah.
Especially in government loans, that during COVID, it was really great. The programs that all the agencies came out with were awesome. And I think we processed during COVID something like 5,000 or 10,000 forbearances. within a 3-month window.
Well, I mean, we were telling people back, our real estate, podcast listeners, we were telling them, look, I don't know what the market's going to be like. We had no idea there was going to be a housing boom, right? How would you know? Who would have predicted that?
Exactly.
That makes no sense, but whatever. But yeah, we were telling people to put their houses in forbearance. And like you said, the programs were awesome. It was up to a year, no hit on your credit report whatsoever. The unpaid mortgage balance goes on the back of the mortgage. So there was no like big amount of money you'd have to come up with when it came out of forbearance. Yeah. So listeners, please remember I said that if you run across anybody that is fearful of being able to make their house payment, call the lender, have them call the lender and have them put the house in forbearance and get the house sold. And that's a great listing because the seller is very motivated. All right, let's pivot. Let's talk about angelai.com.
Yeah, but before we do that, I do have to clarify a few things so that there's a
Yes.
misunderstanding. So the COVID forbearance, that process is not available anymore. So
Right.
so it isn't, you can't get those year-long forbearances anymore. So I want to make sure the audience doesn't mistake that. But there are still some really amazing forbearance and workout programs available by the agencies. And there's also still money for I think it was called Hope for Homeowners, and many states still have money in those where the state will make part of your mortgage payment for you. And if you meet the criteria, like you lost a job or a medical emergency or whatever, and so there's still money for that out there.
Yep. We have some of our tenants that are using a similar program to pay some of their rents in some of these markets around the country where we have rentals. But yeah, you're right. Well, so hopefully everyone's realizing that, when you run across somebody that needs help, you now have a new tool in your toolbox to help them. All right, so let's talk about Angel AI. This is very interesting. I discovered it when we were over at your house, actually, and I since researched it, and I've not seen anything else like it. It's very, very cool, and the potential for this idea is just expansive. So I've just teed you up.
Yeah, first of all, like all the questions you just asked me, anyone go on Angel AI right now is go to askangel.ai and ask the same questions, and you'll get better answers than I gave because I'm going off memory. And I don't foreclose I don't deal with foreclosure guidelines every day, and I don't deal with underwriting mortgages every day. Right. So I could have gotten anything wrong. But with Angel, because it's an AI and because the way we designed it, it's never wrong. And I put my money behind it. I give a warranty on it. So if Angel did get it wrong, right? For example, you as a realtor, you want an Angel and you gave it your a customer's information, and the Angel said, hey, yeah, this loan's approved at $500,000. Okay. And then the day before closing, Angel cannot say, oops, yeah, we missed that large deposit, and now this loan is not approved anymore. Okay. So that's the warranty, right? And even if it did, I'm going to fund that loan anyways.
Well,
So
let's take a half step back because you just told them the punchline. So I'm a real estate agent. I'm in wherever USA. I'm listening right now or watching us on YouTube. I want to learn more about Angel AI. You told me basically it's like an automated underwriting thing, but as a licensee or even a mortgage loan officer, because we have a lot of mortgage loan officers too. Tell me how it works. Tell me what it is.
yeah, so it's a chat system. Yeah, and a lot like in many ways very similar to ChatGPT. I think it's a lot cooler than ChatGPT because it gives you exact answers. So you just go to the URLs askangel.ai. Okay. And then it's self-explanatory, and you start chatting with her. And you can ask her, basic mortgage questions, ask her about forbearance. You can ask her about this 3%, buyer's agent rule being paid through seller's concessions. Ask her about the favorite thing that realtors love to ask her about is, hey, can you prospect my leads for me? Okay. And she will say yes. Okay. And this is like realtors, once they get into it, they just geek out and they fall in love with her. Because then what you do is you say, okay, you take some stale leads out of your old CRM system. And I know every realtor, the most favorite thing they'll have to do every day is cold call. Am I right, Tim?
Yeah, that's called sarcasm. I get that all the time from Zoe.
So instead of you cold calling, you take your old leads, your old contacts, you hit the paperclip and you upload it, and it could be in any format. I even had a realtor tell me a story about how he met someone at the bar. He wrote that person's name down on the napkin, literally bar napkin, took a picture of it, dropped it into Angel. Angel started prospecting him, and within a week, he was in a purchase contract. Right. So that's how effective it is.
Break that down. Break down what you just said. We can use just we don't have to use bar guy, but just using it as an example. So what do you mean by prospecting? What is it doing? How's it communicating? What is it saying? What messaging is it doing?
Yes. So what it says and how it says it is entirely you directed. You as the customer, the agent directed. So when you give it a set of leads and you say, here, prospect these for me, then she'll ask you more questions like, okay, she'll say, what do you want me to say? So you give her your script. And everyone has their own cold call script or a personalized script. Or maybe you have a separate list of your personal friends and a separate list for, cold contacts and a separate list from the last open house. And each list would have a different script. So you tell her the script. Okay. And and as you know, anyone who's cold called knows that 90% of the time when you call somebody, you're going to get a voicemail. Okay. So you, at one time, all you do is at once you hit the microphone icon and you record your own personal voicemail. Okay. So for that campaign, so you give her a script and your own personal voicemail for that campaign. Okay. And you record it. She has your voice recording. Okay, then when she makes the calls to your people, she will follow that script. And if that person didn't pick up and we got that person's voicemail, your voice will be dropped in that person's voicemail and you will get the call back. Okay, now here's the best part about it is there's other systems out there that do things like this that are fully 100% AI. Okay, but an AI voice is not the same as a human voice. You don't get the same conversion. Okay, so Angel works with we had real humans making the calls, and it's all free for you. So this is like your own pool of virtual assistants. And these people are almost all in Puerto Rico, and they're all bilingual, English and Spanish. So they will call all your leads, and the reason we're able to do it because they're so amazingly efficient because they're all driven by the AI and the AI tells them what to do and how to do it.
Okay, so you answered my question. So I was worried about TCPA with what you're describing because that's an automated dialer, but you're having real people here in Puerto Rico that are making the calls.
Correct.
And that's so thus there's a real human. It's not an automated dialer. So then it's sanguine.
Yes, yeah, because TCPA is very complicated because it's not just about real humans, but you can't even use the real human has to hit the dial pad manually, right?
Yeah.
You can't have an auto like what they call those power dialers. You can't do that, right? So we literally meet all of those rules and we have real humans do it correctly. Okay, but we do it in a way that they're so amazingly efficient. They get hundreds of calls made every day, each person. I mean, right now I think realtors are loading over 500,000 leads a month into the system, realtors from all across the country. And once they try it once, they're in love with it. They're like, the realtors. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you look at my social media, you'll see realtors posting all the time about, my life has changed because I getting leads every day.
So
Hot leads every day.
let's just drill down on this because you're right. This is obviously a home run idea. First of all, are you charging for this?
No, it's absolutely free.
Okay. So far you're solving two big problems. You're making it so agents don't have to make their own calls, which they hate doing, and you're not charging them anything. So far, I'm sure everyone's loving you so far. Now but the nature of the calls, just to clarify that these guys are doing are going to be more of a lower skill type call. They're not going to be calling, for example, for sale by owner and expired. They're mostly warm calls to people that already know you, in essence. And I would imagine most of your more experienced callers now have an idea of what types of scripts work and don't work. So maybe as far as writing your own script, you probably, as an agent, you probably don't have to worry about that either, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, actually, this team does all kinds of calls for sale by owner. They do expired listings, whatever, and they have a tremendous success. Right, the script is yours. You give it the script, right, as a text, Word document, and the caller will use your script. whatever the script is. And these callers are very well trained on how to make these calls. They do thousands of them, every week.
So
So
how do you comply with DNC on this? Basically, just don't call them.
yeah, we don't call them. Yeah, every time you upload a list, it does an automatic DNC scrub that's done to it.
Okay. So why would you be offering all this for free?
Oh, okay. Well, before I say why, let me tell you, there's more stuff it does for free.
Cool.
Let's just make sure you all understand everything it does, and then I'll get into the why. So the second thing it does is that it promotes. You can use it as your marketing tool. So it promotes your listings. It'll generate very sophisticated listings sites for you. And with the full mortgage calculator on the listing site with all the different options, buy down, temporary buy downs, permanent buy downs, and everything. And these are good Google ranked, high
Property site.
ranked websites
Right.
that are easy for you to share also on social media. The other thing does, you can also create custom landing pages. You can literally create timharris.com and it will generate a custom landing page for you about you as a realtor. So it promotes you. Okay. And I know a lot of realtors that are watching, especially when they're working for some of the smaller franchises, they don't really get good marketing support and they don't get good landing pages and things like that. And this it generates it for you, and then if anyone engages on landing page and they get a lead, the lead goes straight to you, nobody else.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
right.
Yeah, I
So
mean, putting dollar amounts to this, if there's agents that have been using VAs to make those types of calls for a long period of time, and the VAs are good for what they call circle prospecting or just doing just listed and just sold calls, which I'm sure you guys do a lot of too, because of the least skill necessary. But you're providing a solution at a perfect time in the industry where agents are wanting to figure out how to make ends meet in a lot of cases, drive profitability, and you're giving them an option other than continuing to cover those costs. So far, I love it.
yeah.
I'm waiting for you to say something I can argue at. Come up with something.
Right. And then the other thing now, once you get your feet wet in these and you're using it, now you can use it to be a high value to your buyers because you can ask it any kind of financing mortgage question. Okay, and she will answer everything, like even something as complex as Texas cash out questions. Right. When like Texas cash out is very complicated. When you can and can't do it. Right. And I see loan officers and lenders trip up on that all the time. Right. So you can ask it any kind of situation, and then you could take it one step further. And if you're talking to a borrower and he's got some of his income documents with him, and he's like, well, here's my, I'm sure this happens to a lot of agents, and you're sitting with the buyer, and the buyer's like, well, here's my W-2. What do you think? You don't want to say, well, let me go check with my loan officer. Wouldn't it be better if you could just say on the spot, well, here, let me find out. Right. Let me
We're making a pivot here, and I want to make sure everyone's paying attention. So you are a national mortgage banker, and what you're now suggesting is that agents can start originating loans. So that this is the bridge that we're crossing right now in this conversation. So kind of clarify, would an agent need a license to do that? Would they need to get their mortgage broker license, or they just become employees of your bank? Because I understand if someone's an employee of a mortgage bank, they don't have to get a license. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the answer is yes to all of that. But what I'm proposing right now, something even simpler. I'm just saying, hey, I'm a buyer's agent, and I have to demonstrate more value to my customer, and my customer just asked me a financing question. So do I play phone tag and tell my customer I'll get back to you tomorrow, or do I go into the AI, ask it the question that my customer just asked me, and get an answer that I know is right because there's a warranty that comes with that answer.
Mm.
Okay. And be able to give him that answer on the spot. Now I'm a hero. Now I'm higher value. I've earned that 3% buyer's commission. Okay. And the question that the buyer asked me could be very complicated. It could be, here's my tax returns and my schedule of real estate. Can you use this? Right. And I know realtors get these kinds of situations all the time. They'll say, typically, when you're a realtor, you tell me what in those situations when you get a buyer with complex tax returns and maybe some disability or something, and says, here's my documents, what do you think?
Right. Well, I don't have, yeah, I'm not a realtor
Oh,
actually.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, Julie's got the real estate license. We haven't bought or sold real estate other than our own deals for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. And matter of fact, we refer out probably a dozen to 20, referrals per month to our coaching clients. So yeah, we're too much conflict, but I
Okay.
get what you're saying. So where my mind's going with this is if, again, you're sitting across, again, you're trying to, and I like how you tied it back into the whole new landscape with regards to buyer agent commission. If you're sitting across the table from a buyer and you're trying to show your value, your unique selling propositions, most agents would never have this level of confidence, let alone, knowledge about mortgages. And now you're showing a way that you even bring more value. So you're enhancing the agent's value. Thus that exclusive contract with that buyer is going to be easier to, have them sign.
Exactly. Exactly. So all you have to do, and you don't have to know everything about mortgages. And then, there's like a zillion mortgage programs out there. And the hardest part of being a loan officer is knowing which loan program to apply to when. Okay. Right. So, but if you're using Angel AI and get trained on how to use Angel AI, and it's so easy, you just chat with it. And you take the whatever the question the customer asked you and whatever information he gave you, you give all that to Angel. Angel will give you back an exact answer, an answer that can never be wrong, because if it is, I'll do that loan anyways.
You keep saying that, and let's go back to that because that's certainly something unique. It's your unique selling proposition. So
Right.
you're guaranteeing not just if Angel AI says this person's approved, you're not, and this is, you're right. In the mortgage industry, it's a nightmare scenario. Oh gosh, what's going to happen at the last minute, the day of closing? What is the underwriter going to come up with? Oh, the underwriter's dragging it out more. The underwriter lost all the paperwork. What the hell you mean you need my W-2s again? I just gave them to you 14 times, all the rest of it. But you've eliminated that problem with Angel AI. Can you tell them about that? And then tell them how your warranty or your guarantee rather works?
Yeah. So basically so if you give Angel AI information about your customer, and W-2s, pay stubs, whatever you have, right? You give it to Angel AI, she will on the spot analyze it and give you back a structure. Like, this is how we can do this loan. Like we can do this as FHA, and or we can do this as conventional, or no, you can't use that business income because the business hasn't been around for more than 6 months or whatever it was, right? So it'll tell you all of those answers. And if you ask, and you can keep probing her, you can keep asking why, explain this, explain that, and she'll break everything down for you. Okay, so that you understand, she will make sure you understand the deal. Okay, so now number one, if you can learn everything from her so that you can explain it to your customer. So now you look really smart to your customer. Second is now if you choose, right, you have a choice at this point. Okay, that you can say, hey, Angel, can you just go ahead and do this deal for me? Can you just go ahead and fund the deal and take the loan app to fund the deal? And so at that point, Angel will kick in and will originate the loan. Okay, and take it all the way to funding. Okay, and will disperse the money. And everything that she told you upfront, she will honor. Okay, so that anything she told you, she cannot backtrack on that, even if she made a mistake. Because let's face it, in this business, what happens is it's all human. There's human beings looking at documents, there's human beings reviewing files. And there's, more complex the situation, the more documents there are, the more chances of a mistake that a human being will make. Right. And that's when, all hell breaks loose in a transaction, is when the lender's like, oops, we have a big problem here and I need these 5 other documents, or the ratios are over 56 or whatever, and I can't approve the loan anymore. Right. And that's where all the drama comes in. But because Angel's giving the answers and the decisions, okay, and I'm basically saying whatever it says, I'm going to stand behind. Okay, so that when it goes to closing, right, and you got something from Angel, it's certified. Like, it's not going to change. Right? The only way that could change is if the document you gave it was invalid. That was a fake document, or that the borrower got hit by a bus, and well, obviously you can't fund loans on dead people, right?
Yeah, not anymore. You could do that during the housing boom, evidently. All that horribleness. Joke, listeners, joke.
Right? So to exercise the warranty is you tell Angel, hey, can you originate the loan for me? Can you finance it for me? And then Angel will take over. If you choose to not let Angel do it, and that's fine too. You can go take it to another loan officer or do it however way you want to do it. But you could always use Angel as a free resource and get all the answers. And you always know whatever answers Angel gives it is correct, because Angel, if you give Angel the loan, she'll do the loan exactly based on whatever she told you.
If I'm a mortgage broker and I'm listening or watching this right now, this is
Mhm.
going to be such a huge relief because you're making it so that, frankly, I don't have to have all the staff that I have currently because your Angel AI is going to provide all that. You're removing, basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, a lot of the middle processes, which is very, expensive from a lot of these mortgage brokers, which is you're going to allow them to be viable even during these lean times in the mortgage business. That's amazing. So I can see how the mortgage guys are going to make money from this. So
Mhm.
if a real estate agent wanted to actually be involved in the origination, how would that work? Because that's the big conversation in real estate, as you
Yes.
know.
Yes, and that would work as well. Is basically now you as a real estate agent, if you're sitting down with the customer and the customer giving the documents and you put it in Angel, and Angel's already structured it for you. I mean, you've already done the job of a loan officer. It's already done, right? You
The
know,
late, let's clarify that, okay? So again, I'm not the expert, so you got to tell me if I'm wrong. And you can always ask Angel AI because your computer's right in front of you in case you don't know the answer. But so in order for someone to be paid for originating a loan, there is a minimum amount of paperwork that they have to do. There's certain things that they have to have done in order for that to have been considered an origination. It's not just simply getting them to enter their name and phone number into a form. They actually have to have worked the loan.
yes, and the work the loan basically, loosely speaking, is means that you have to collect the documents. You have to be the interface between the borrower and the technology to collect the documents. Right. And when the technology spits out that this customer is, we suggest an FHA 30-year fixed at whatever 6.5%, then you're the one who explains that to the customer that yes, it's FHA 30-year fixed 6.5%. These are your closing costs. So that's the activity of a licensed loan officer. You explain the product rate and terms, and you collect the documents from the borrower and put it in the tech. You can also do, self-fulfillment. The borrower any customer can go and any consumer go to Angel AI and put it in themselves. But if you are in that process, helping them do that, right, is sufficient. Even you giving them the link so they could do it themselves, you've fulfilled your obligations as a loan officer in the process, right? The rule
That was
doesn't.
what,
Right.
yeah,
If the
that was what I was wondering.
technology, if the technology does 99% of the heavy lifting for you, right, you still met your goals as a loan officer, right? And that's the new AI world, is that it's becoming so easy to be a loan officer because the technology does all of it, almost all of it. The only thing that the technology cannot do is what you and I do right now, which is building a relationship, building a trust, building an understanding. Right. And that's the number one most important thing that a realtor needs to do with his buyer or seller. And the most important thing that a loan officer needs to do with the buyer seller is to build that understanding, make sure that you set expectations correctly, make sure you let them know that, hey, you know what, even though this technology is great and everything's AI and everything is amazing, hey, this is real estate, anything go wrong, that's why I'm here to quarterback the deal to make sure that even if something goes wrong, you won't experience it. I'll get it through.
So then if someone, like say I'm sitting with a buyer or the buyer is sitting at home, I sent them the link, they're filling out they're uploading their information. I'm sure it's scans and whatnot to Angel AI. How long does it take for Angel AI to actually say you're approved for these maybe 2 or 3 different mortgages? Which one makes the most sense to you?
Yeah, so I seem to do it depending on the situation. I seem to do it as quickly as 30 minutes. Okay. And on the outside, a couple hours. Okay. And so the median is about 1 hour.
Okay.
Okay. And 1 hour is like even very complex VA scenarios with funky things happening with the eligibility certificate and stuff like that. Those could end up taking it.
Yeah. It
Right.
requires probably human interface where they have to call the VA and check out numbers and make sure everything's still current and they're not using their VA benefits some other way and all those things. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but you know what? And even those we get done in an hour, and it doesn't even we avoid all that human interface because there's electronic interfaces out there. We get the data electronically, and a lot of lenders don't know about it, and a lot of most lenders don't even have access to it because you have to have the relationship with the VA to build the bridges to their systems to get the
Mm.
data.
Yeah, high level API. That's
Yeah.
very interesting though. I think that's really fascinating. So if I'm a real estate agent and I'm listening right now and I'm thinking, holy tamale, this is another way for me to be of service to my customers. And oh, by the way, I can also start making commission off loans. And just the most generalist of terms, can you give an agent an idea of how much, like the typical $400,000, $425,000 house, what type of commission, if they were, loan officers for Angel AI, how that would work
Yeah.
out?
Yeah. So $425,000 house, roughly $3,000 of commission you could make if you.
Okay.
Okay, now if you have to go through all the steps to get registered as an agent, right? It isn't just simply that if you could be a power user of Angel AI and getting all your approvals and everything from it and all that, but you won't get paid a penny unless you get registered to be an agent. Okay, so to be registered to be an agent is number one. Most people think that okay, I got to go get licensed, I'll get my NMLS license and take the test and all that. Well, there's a way around that. So we have partnerships with a couple of banks, okay, who are on the platform. Okay, so you become an employee of the bank and you don't need a license then because banks are federally insured and exempt, and you don't need a license when you become an employee of a bank. Okay, so that's number one. So with our bank partners, you become employed by our bank partners, and then you get paid by them. So you become a part-time W-2 employee of one of our bank partners.
Interesting. So that would also, because I can think from a broker's perspective, their big concern would be agents doing loans. And in the event that there's some errors and omission insurance claim, who's basically going to be liable for that? But if they're legally an employee of that bank, then it's obviously going to be the bank's problem, not the broker's problem.
Completely, yes. As you become, that's the beauty of being an employee. A lot of realtors, real estate agents are so used to being independent contractors, they forget that all the benefits of being an employee, which is number one, the employer pays half your taxes, right? And number two is you have basically, unless you commit fraud, or misrepresentation, you have no liability. The bank takes all your liability, right? So
Yep.
you get to be coddled and loved while the bank does all the hard work.
So I'm listening, I want to become a loan officer, I want to work with you. What types of requirements would the bank have in order to take me on as a W-2 loan officer for them?
The main thing is, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you have a valid real estate license, and you have a book of business. We can look in, the public data sources like MMI and see that you have deals. Those are the two most important things. Number three is we want to see you are an active user of Angel AI, that you're getting in there, you're using it, and you're taking effort to learn how to use it. And then you get invited when we monitor the usage, and then we invite agents to become agents under our lending platform.
That makes total sense. That's the way I would do it too. That's brilliant. Because then basically, if they're not going to be comfortable with the whole platform, then they're never going to originate any loans. Why go through the hassle of making them employees?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, right. So you basically become, you go, and this is the first, see, you become a certified Angel AI agent in essence, that as you watch your usage. So the first step to learn how to use Angel AI is just attend a free workshop. And these workshops are like Uber. They arrive whenever you want them. Um, and they're run by real human beings. They're done in English and Spanish, and pretty much during business hours. I think from 10 a.m. Pacific to 4 p.m. Pacific, something like that. Every hour on the hour. So you go to angelai.com/workshop, angelai.com/workshop, WORKSHOP, all one word. And then there's a little simple web form you fill in there, and you say when you want the workshop, right? You put in your name and contact information when you want the workshop, then you'll get a Zoom link by email, and you jump in and you go.
Cool. I love it. I'm trying to think in my head why I wouldn't, as a real estate agent, other than maybe I'm just perceiving that it's going to be too much time and effort. But why wouldn't I want to do this with you? I can't really think of a viable reason. And you catnipped it perfectly with all the freebie stuff in the beginning, so that was awesome. But I guess why wouldn't an agent want to work with you? I know why you wouldn't want to work with an agent if they're just non-productive and they're going to, weigh the system down and not really, essentially do any loans or whatever. But I mean, why wouldn't an agent want to work with you? What would be from your experience?
It's just two things. One is inertia. I see a lot of agents who go in there and who'll use some of the free services like lead prospecting and the websites, right? And then they'll stop at that point. Even though they could be making money on deals, they just stop. Which
Yeah.
is fine. And I think it's a matter of time. And then they hear about it. I see I'll speak at conferences and I'll see the same agent 3 or 4 times who's heard it a couple of times already, right? And maybe it took them 3 times to use the lead prospecting. And now they finally heard it one more time. They're like, you know what? I'm going to try out some of the mortgage stuff. I'm leaving money on the table. So I think a lot of it's just coaching, right? If the coaches were in tune with this and understood like the value this could add, and I'm not picking on coaches here because this is all new for coaches as well. But generally the classic real estate coaching methodology was to teach agents to just do one thing: focus on your real estate, right? And that made sense when loans were really, really hard to do, and you needed a really good loan partner to make sure they got done. But now the technology, where it is, doing loans is almost as easy as looking up property value on Zillow, right? And you get your answers right away. Why not? So a lot of this is just this psychological retraining of agents to understand that loans are not that hard anymore. And in fact, one of the things that from my mortgage company, what we've discovered is we are actually taking brand new loan officers, people who just got their license, and training them on Angel AI, and they're making them really good loan officers within 60 days, right? And usually it takes years to become a good loan officer, but with this power, you can be a very good loan officer right off the bat because you have all the knowledge at your fingertips.
You've got like the top tier support staff behind you 24/7, and you already have your team in place basically, which is, yeah, I can definitely
Yes.
see the value of that.
Yes.
Well, I love this. And I love this, especially in this era where we're going to see, well, hypothetically, we might see commission compression on the buyer agent side. This is a great way to shore things up. And from a consumer perspective, it is interesting. The consumers tolerate having to use so many different service providers and when they're doing a real estate transaction. Now you got to talk to Bob the lender. Now you can talk to Betty over at Title. Now you got to talk to Barry the home inspector. All these people, all these relationships to manage. It definitely isn't. Certainly not something that's it's ripe for disruption. That's for sure. And I appreciate the whole concept of what you're creating. You're leading with tremendous value for real estate agents. You've identified the things that they're going to want to do the least. And then you're parlaying that into an opportunity for them to make money on the mortgage side. I mean, I love it. It's fantastic. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and also like when you share, like every realtor can go to Angel right now and request Angel to create a custom link. So you can have, for example, angelai.com/Tim Harris. Okay. And when you share that link with your customer, with your home buyer, okay, and they click it, you get a text message that someone clicked your link. Okay. And not only that, when you can also join that conversation in real time. So now you can see what your buyer is, what your buyer is talking to Angel about, and you can jump in and chime in on that as well. So you never lose touch with your buyer.
Yeah, it's awesome. So are there any questions or any thoughts that you had that I should have, addressed? Anything that maybe would be of tremendous value to our listeners as we level off? Because I'm looking up, you and I've been on for over an hour. I didn't realize that. Sorry. But are there any other questions I should have asked you or anything you think would be really important for these guys to hear?
No, I mean, shoot. I mean, we're having conferences. Just follow me on my Instagram, which is my name, Pavan Agarwal _AI. And you can see everything that's happening. We have events like almost every month, actually twice a month. And it's a great place to just come in and meet the team behind Angel AI and the executive team who's built it, who keeps it running. And it's good, and just just immerse yourself in the product. So follow me on Instagram or follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn. Search by my name, you'll find it there on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you'll see the latest happenings. It's just tons of great stuff. AI is changing the world really fast. This product's been out for 4+ years. We've done over 200,000 transactions on it, and we've honored the warranty every time it's messed up, and it's only messed up 4 times.
I'm writing down some questions that you and I are gonna have a little conversations as soon as I hit stop record. Just give you 2 seconds. All right, or done something else. All right, listeners, I told you you'd love it. I loved it. It was very interesting. I learned a lot. We went back to real estate 101 school when we were getting all the definitions of loan officers and whatnot. But I know some of you really benefited from that. But I think moving forward, as we're entering into this new era of real estate, it's important that you open your mind to, I mean, like he said, a lot of agents are very complacent, locked into the way things have been done forever. It's very realistic to believe in this new market, the expectation of our customers is going to be that you do offer a variety of services, not just opening the door. Oh, and by the way, you can earn money for doing so. So I'd strongly encourage you guys to check out angelai.com, angelai.com. And Pavan, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.